So, the One Punch Man rabbit incident. So when I got first into SEAD, all I kept hearing was these whispers about this guy, let's call him Gene. It would be like, oh, Gene coming back, oh my god, Gene's coming back. It was literally like Darth Vader was coming back, alright? And as a new recruit, I only could figure out one thing, which was, he went to detention barracks, which was military prison. And then he came back, he was jacked. And I guess that's true that when you're in prison, you have nothing else to do but work out. Alright, so as I got more and more friendly with everybody in camp, one day I went over to Salvage. Just to let you know, main building of SEAD is here, the ammo depot, and then one street across is Salvage. Salvage is where people weigh all the bullet casings and all when you go to ammo ranges and all that. This was to handle that. So I went over there during a lunch break and I met Skeletor. Skeletor is basically this tall Indian guy who's very skinny, and he said that if he ever had a pawn name, it would be called Skeletor. And I think he called his dick Boner, which is why we just coined that. And great guy to hang out with. So I asked him, like, why? What happened with Gene? And he said, oh, because by then Gene had already left the camp. So basically, two people were sent by an officer to get some paperwork done at Salvage. They went over there, and I don't remember if there was already bad blood between the two of them, but they went over there and they wanted the paperwork to be done. Gene doesn't do it immediately. And the two guys are just left standing there. The guy who I would just say is the guy who's going to get punched, he's standing there and then he's waiting and gets impatient, and he looks down and he sees a rabbit cage with a amputee rabbit. Basically a rabbit with only 3 legs, which Gene had adopted. And he's waiting there. I don't know if some choice words were exchanged, but at some point the guy just kicks the rabbit cage. You know, he's waiting there and just kicks it. So obviously Gene comes out like, hey, what the fuck, Zibai? You know, and the guy said, hey, calm down, it's just a rabbit. You know, and the guy says, apologize. The guy says no, Gene goes again, apologize. The guy says no, and unlike most Singaporeans, this guy swings. And not only does he do a jab, he actually throws a full haymaker, like boom. And as a person who saw this in Australia, in person, the guy's nose broke and a fountain of blood comes out. A fountain. In fact, they took off his shirt and tried to stem the bleeding. When they finally got him into an ambulance, Skeletor told me that when they squeezed his shirt, blood was flowing non-stop out of it. It was that bad. Now, if you watch my BMT video about the fight that happened, most of the time, officers, if they can settle this internally, they totally would. They don't want anyone to go to jail and stuff like that. But this was impossible. Seeing the gravity of the injury, and also if anything happened to this guy and they didn't do it properly, heads would roll. So the guy went immediately to DB, was charged, and went over there. But I got to say that having dealt with Gene afterwards, he was truly a very quiet guy. He definitely gave off a very tense aura of don't fuck with me. I never felt he was a horrible person, he was hard to deal with, and that was that. Next time, we'll talk about a big incident that happened in SEAD when I was there with a particular warrant officer which I went from hating to actually feeling really bad for. You want to hear about that? Come back next time. Till next word.